what? All right, folks, we're going to call budget, committee meeting, May 18th, 2023 to order at 6:20 p.m. Apologize for the delay, but technical difficulties. Go ahead and call the roll here, Richard.
Dr. Acuff,
Present.
Julie Gwynn,
Here.
Brad Johnson, here, Danny Deal,
Here.
Layla Ward,
Here.
Donnie Cagle,
Here.
Aaron Brady,
Here.
Doug McQueen.
Here. Thank you, guys. Floor is open for a motion to adopt the agenda.
There were two changes to the agenda from the one that I sent out previously. I forgot to put in the public comments, and then I took all the, line item for the highway. We need to delay that until the next meeting.
So we are delaying, which item?
No, I changed the agenda, the one you have in front of you is correct.
Oh, okay.
It's different from the one I sent out.
Well, how it was a 5-year average.
Yeah, I decided to delay that until next time.
Thank you very much. We have a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Mr. Deal, we have a second. Ron McQueen. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, public comments. Right. Moving on. Got anything you want to say, Bill? John? No? Okay. Here, this was your moment in the spotlight. Let's see, review department summary, report for 4% requested non-payroll item deductions.
So this is basically your summary that tells you what they were, and the majority of them were at 4%. There were a couple that were more than 4%, and there was one that was a little over 3. Well, it was over 3%, and not after 4. I put it out all the decimal points. And I kind of put notes by there. Couple of changes just to note on, the EMA budget. We had made, a couple of little changes in on the coroner's budget as well. So that's what those are in red. But by and large, those, I thought people did a correct job of trying to come up with some stuff. Even some of the really small budgets came up with a little bit, which I thought was great.
Mike's done a good job, search for
He worked hard on that.
84,000.
He had a large one, and then, the county buildings, that one was a large one as well.
You're wrong, that deal.
Cool, any other comments?
How much is it? With
217,000 and change. We've run total on the right hand side.
I got 192.
Yeah, I was trying
That's
to
what I
say,
did.
we made a change to the, tax relief. I thought we were gonna reduce it.
Yeah.
But that one, the formula didn't. I just noticed that the formula didn't, but, I mean, on the tax relief, so he requested the additional monies up to 90,000 as opposed to what it was before, so that is something that you may want to consider, because there was no reduction, because I asked him about taking it back to what it was from the previous year. And that's what I originally had this at, and then he said, no, we wanted to leave it at the 90,000, so that would be something to consider.
Because if you'll remember, this year, people are going to get less tax relief by about 27%, 26%, something like that.
Yeah, for veterans, it was a big percentage.
Plus, we can take into consideration the fact that we never used the entire amount. But if there was need for it and request for it, we can always come back and request it as needed. So what this does is this just holds funds in the budget. But historically, from what I recall, they've never used the entire amount.
I want to say it's normally, around 50 to 60,000, so if it's expended out of it, something like that, about 60.
Yeah.
So there's always a little bit left in there, but this year, my guess is there'll be more people coming in asking for tax relief in the next fiscal year. And they're gonna get less than they would have last year because of the offset.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, so those two kind of would even out a little bit, but that is something to take into consideration because that was a pretty significant jump.
So almost 2 cents there on tax rates. So let's say those were pretty lean budgets. Also, there's a couple in there surprising. There's a couple in there surprising as far as normal participation. Well, I pulled the budgets on some of those. Yeah, there was something on the warrant space. That's amazing. Yep.
Yeah, I did try to make some notes out to the side just so you can kind of see what people took out, where they pulled it, and of course I did tell them non-payroll expenses.
yes. I don't think local health has the option.
They don't, no, they don't. One that's not reflected in here, but she did call me, but it's minor anyway. I didn't have the opportunity to call her back. It was the UT Extension Office, but that one was a few $100s. So I'll get back with her. I appreciated her doing that. That's my fault for not being able to contact her back. There were a couple other little ones that, it's just $100, so it's not going to make a difference.
I thought it was probably 3 or 4 elected officials, new directors, everybody received it pretty well, and they understand the reason, so, didn't have any negative feedback over it, so that's good.
Yeah, I sort of say I didn't have any either. So I guess my question at this point related to this is there anything else specifically that you want me to look at? Or to ask questions on, or we just kind of roll with where we are on it? Because like I said, the tax relief, when that one I did go back and change it back to what it was before, so. Because I had reduced it down to what it was previous.
And with the exception of the 2, all the rest of them really, basically are not part of this. We can speak about the tax relief, bring it in sale. Down to bottom, like litter grants, which makes like that's not expected. The request came out for the, deal act that we're passing. We'll get that problem. Yeah, the deal act, that is, to me, my opinion, first question was that the Parliament is. which these other years were just, those were, you know, like courtroom security. That is. Preservation of records, that's not the department. Communication office, that's not me. That's PJ.
That's a guy.
Yeah.
Any other comments? Now that's 217.
It's actually 25,000 less than that, isn't it?
Yes.
It's exactly 25,000.
Yeah, that was the last second change that I made, and I think I did.
The choices they sell.
Sometimes it works well, sometimes. Yeah, it's 492, 271, 35.
The limit to
271.
I think that person.
this is less than 40. So that should be a deduction from the original proposal, 2344 20. There isn't anything left that we haven't covered that would reduce budget request from the cost. Is it? So just those numbers that are, puts that right there on the budget before it can start being accumulated to determine the bottom line where we're at. Excuse me, sorry. Stealing thunder.
I said it depended on how far we go as to whether we get to that.
But I don't have to supposed to go to
But the 4% plus the insurance puts us at 308, 516. I think that's pretty good. I didn't think it was going to be that much better.
Yeah, now from the insurance standpoint, we went back and recalculated probably 3 different times. Colton sent me some additional, because I just really wasn't getting to where I thought we should be. And so he sent me some additional information, so we went down to the bottom level to calculate this. But this is based on where everyone is right now. And then it takes anyone that was in option 2, I moved them up to option 1. Option 3, the 2 high deductibles, let me say it that way, I averaged them. Because there's no way, that's new, so there's no way for me to really know where people are gonna land. So I averaged them.
So you don't think the ones that are on option 3, which is the new option 2, will migrate? You don't think the same number will migrate to that one?
There's no way to know.
Keep the same, be the same line. Think about that, that's a moving target.
There's no way to know.
Yeah.
I just assumed that people in option 2 were only 9. Since they did not currently have a high deductible, that they would not take one, so that's why I moved them to option 1. The people that were in a high deductible, I assumed they'd stay there, but I averaged the cost and the, HSA between the 2, because there was no way to really know where they would go with that. And so that's, when we talked, that was kind of what we determined would be the most conservative route to go. Because if I dropped half of them to the lower plan, and then they ended up not doing that, or they bumped up to 1, then that's just what it was. So that's why we kind of averaged it. Now, the HRA contribution, that is funding it at 37%. So when I talked to Tim and Colton, they said somewhere between 30 and 35%, well, I'd already done it at 37, so I left it. I started it at a much higher percentage. But when you go back and you look at where we've been and how much the people who were in option one have used their deductible, it just didn't seem realistic to even put it in at 50%. Now, the county is responsible if something catastrophic happened. The county would be responsible for paying it, but that's something we address at the time it occurs. But based on historicals for the last couple of years, this is kind of what makes sense to fund that. Then we can kind of go from there in the next year or 2 years and decide how it looks like it's going to work, and then we can determine whether we need to fund it more or fund it less.
Or I do 36%, usually.
Which is great. It's not really a whole lot of executive terror. Like as far as funding wise goes, because at worst, even in the worst case scenario, you only got another $70,000 to $80,000, nothing absolute worst case scenario.
That's if everybody,
Everybody had a car accident. Like
yes, that's what I'm saying, you got a catastrophic, everybody in the whole plan met their, or had the full $3,500 deductible. The chances of that are not super great, just based on historical data.
Yeah.
But I don't think it would be wise to not fund it at all.
Oh, that's terrible. 37% I think is the right number, because if I'm not mistaken, most companies are somewhere between 25 and 30%, so if we go over a little bit this year. We also don't lose that money either, it's unexpended, comes back.
Well, my recommendation would be anything that is left in these insurance lines, we roll it to a reserve, so it starts to fund that HRA contribution. And so then we have a reserve for that, and we don't have to keep funding it every single year.
That sounds like they're asking for a motion.
We can't do that yet, it's next year.
And we can do it this year.
So, but that would be my recommendation, is that we are basically funding ourselves if we do that. So it's a,
Well, that was the objective when we originally started this, even Sequoia said the best thing that you can do is self-fund, because you get all the savings yourself. What's the balances in those line items for this year? Did you do that?
I don't know, off the top of my head. I will say that, historically, the way they've been budgeted, of course, they roll back in. I mean, they're budgeted pretty much at exact dollar for where employees are at the time we do the budget. Now, of course, same thing, they can move around in there. And we will be making some adjustments at the end of the year, which we'll have at one of the next budget meetings as I get those finished. This is not necessarily done that way because this HRA contribution, it rolls into the insurance line. So it's extra money in that line, which is not the way we've historically done it. Colton did tell me today, one thing that he just found out, he actually sent me a text message this morning, which kind of goes along with the way we're doing this, is that if you have employees that go above the 500 threshold, Blue Cross Blue Shield wants to go ahead and take that money at that time, or once a month at least, take that money, as opposed to doing the 30 days in arrear billing, which is what they're currently doing. So that part will be a little bit different, but even more reason why we need to fund this up front.
Yeah. Yeah, because we'll get checks on a regular, in the middle of the month, rather than one bill every 30 days, right? Great, more administration.
He did not know that until today. As soon as he found out, he sent it to me and told me, so. But as long as we are funding the account, it won't matter. It just could potentially be an extra check cut, but that's not that big a deal. My concern is just to make sure you fund it.
Right now, what last year saving $116,000. $13,000 real quick. Well, did you have the extra?
Yeah, they didn't have the extra 132 to the HRA, so that's kind of a wash.
That's about close to.
Anything further on the non-guaranteed healthcare plans? All right, moving on. Decision / vote on department expenses.
A couple of things that I printed out, because we got the deadline passing. We went through today and we printed out a summary version with departments. This is, I'd say 90% of them, there are a few that we're still had a few questions on before I printed them out. Because we are at a point where we can start making some decisions on this stuff. But I also printed out a reminder of what we could potentially be looking at for employee raises. I don't want to put this into the main schedule until I kind of know what direction we're going on this, so that I can kind of see where we're going. We did a summary, Lori did this morning today. As I said, I met that once the one for the outside agencies. So this is not everybody, but this is about 90% of them. So what we did is we took where they were last year and where they are currently, according to this document, which is still not completely final, to see where the differences are. So you can kind of see what, anything that could potentially be a difference. And then we kind of put some notes out here to the side. Like, for example, the communications office last year didn't exist. So, of course, that one looks like it's a lot more money. We have a phone system in for county billings, which that's not a normal expense, so that's in there. The health department kind of is what it is, so it shows a little bit higher. There was also some state mandates for raises for that department as well, that we had to do what we needed to do. There was a new vehicle in one, and of course the change in the request for tax relief. So I kind of noted that on there, so that you can kind of see what our differences are, because right now the difference is about 500,000. But it has those larger dollar amounts in there too, but that's, so it's kind of just the larger dollar amount, and the difference is somewhat deceiving, because there's reasons for all of it for the most part. So do you all want to go down that road at this point?
I got questions on this, right?
Okay.
Mr. Goodman?
We keep that information on.
You want to get that real quick from the Before we get too far into this, let's talk about outside agencies real quick.
All right.
So this is where it is right now. The EMS and the fire departments. No, sorry,
EMS and 911.
yes, those are contracts, we've already signed those contracts, and they're done, that's done. But just curious, is there, because this needs to go on that main schedule too, so is there anything else that needs to be changed on this? If not, then we're probably ready to vote on this and be done with it.
Let's go ahead and,
What you want to do is that, is you find out what your departments are coming in.
Oh, okay.
That is really, to me, that is the temperature gauge on how we will
Oh,
decide.
that's true, because some of these people are now.
Because it may come down to it that the number may be higher than we anticipated. And we say, okay, out of the outside agency, if it's not a government agency, it's not a first responder, something that's 365 a year in this county. Everything else is out the door.
That's true. That's true. Well, this is just for review then, to see if you see anything
We don't want to
different.
do it, we won't be dealing with it for the next 30 days, so I would discard it.
One thing I would like to propose is we ask departments to cut 4%. Because we're trying to give their employees a raise. We set that 192, 271, 30 aside. And hold it for raises. Because that was a commitment. That Danny made or whoever talking with department heads, this is what we were trying to do, so let's preserve that.
yeah, I think the order of operations is like the differences on the expenses, the expenditure form. A lot of these are things that are already existing, it's just a difference from last year, so this isn't counted against the map. The raises would be in addition to this, correct?
Yeah, raises are not in here, because I don't know what you want to do yet.
That's right. But I'm saying we've got, because we went to the departments and asked them for a 4% recovery based on the fact that we were going to give employees an increase. I think we should set that 192 aside. That's what they cut from your budget so that your employees could have an increase. Now, obviously, that may not be the entire amount that we would give them in the interim. But we did ask them to do something for us so that employees would be raised.
Yeah, on the employee raises, what had been discussed previously was $2.50. The total about of that is about $850,000. Ish. I mean, I need to go back and of course recheck it. I started that project today and didn't finish it, so, to your point, the dollar is 330, so that would be half of it.
Understand?
So that they come back and fund it half of, at least something.
Yes.
But but then when I looked at this, I find two of my larger departments, sitting there with nothing. They're kind of, we first on post office.
You're going to get cut, they didn't cut 4%, so employees are getting increased.
Especially since we're saying we're cutting because we want to give our employees money. That's,
Well, today, I mean, the ones that didn't, maybe we can go back to those budgets, see what there's some, kind of funds from the previous year. I mean, just take a long, hard look at it and see.
Well, that's one reason I did this, so you can see who did and who didn't, and
Yeah.
what they did, and you can see what, the ones that did do the cuts, you can see where they did them.
But we can do our calculation, and at the end, in the motion that goes to the full floor, the full commission makes it that, since we got such a response and participation, and just make it across the board, everybody's budget's going to be reduced by 4%, what you like or not. And if it's covered by the floor, they can scream all they want. I mean, to me, and I agree with, Dr. Akers, you know, with that, but when I look around and see non-participants, you know, I see the man snicker behind the bush, I don't know what to talk about.
Danny, did you reach out on all soldiers?
Not all, I talked to
Just
some.
okay.
The ones I talked to,
The ones I talked to, I have already assumed that that's what we're doing, trying to do, and that's what I said.
all of them understood.
Yeah,
what
it's been really
why it was.
Well, cutting it,
And it was, you know, I was just trying to see how it proceed.
it's been well received, I'm not.
And the ones I talked to, well received, they understand what the priority is, so. So,
There are probably about three that really can't, because it's pretty much
understood.
payroll, but there are probably 1, 2, 3.
Like Jared's office, if you dug into his, it'd be a max, like, let's see, this is 300,000, there was $5,300 left. And some of that was left over in data processing charges, but just looking at register.
Yeah, so that one isn't it. The majority of his stuff that can't be cut. I mean, there, he could cut a little, maybe just kind of get in a couple of places that it wouldn't have been material.
Well, my thought is a tiny bit, 25 different areas adds up. And so if we went to them, we asked 4%. If they can't cut 4%, there's no way it's understood, but if they can cut 2% or 1.5%, that's money we're saving. So when we do that across 25 or 30 departments or however many offices, it adds up to a pretty good sum.
And I think if I there for the budget comment or something, or your computer offices have 10 plus employees in them.
So the other indicator too, with what had been presented to us by department heads as far as the request for this next fiscal year. And I go back to our present, well, say the prior year, and I see what is at the end of the year closing, what was set back into the unassigned fund balance. There's something wrong somewhere. And I mean, we have that percentage on each department in the county.
Not worry about that in my budget. Zero every year.
And it all,
My budget right now is $1.
We'll do it back later.
And she gets it all.
Sandy, stay away from my budget.
She's still not
Channel 5, good news.
I know.
Well, and I sure say we can, if you want me to go back to the ones that did not do anything other than the ones that can't do anything, I can send them an email and just say, there's been a request to try to have some reduction. If that's what you want me to do.
Well, not much, I didn't do it. I said, that's like $200 I didn't do it.
I think that, the ones that can, we deem that there's no way they can, so be it. Ones that can should kind of look in the cracks and see what we can say.
I can send an email out to them and just say that it's been requested, you look into.
That's not taking on.
Well, everybody was, we can verify everybody was. So, that they had. Okay, we're not going on, and we're going to expect you to go run the red dog down there. That's okay. Suggestion that I just let the full point next year.
I'm good with that, like I said, I'm good with that, too.
And then when we come down to the end, Mr. Chair, we will have to keep that in consideration when you respect in the amount that it goes in, correlates with you. So our number, what factors were involved, and what motion has to be attached to make that work.
It's gonna be an interesting motion, that's gonna say the least.
We always do, we try to, right after, sometimes,
I wrote one down before.
yeah, we spell paper, words get tight in there. I got what I was supposed to say.
I'm going back here, what I'm doing, guys, I'm pulling the, previous ones that we had. Looking to see
It's going to be hard because there's stuff been in and out, insurance around, so that's why I printed the new ones, but I just printed them summary wise on the short, smaller version, because I figured you don't need all the historical part of it.
Yeah, like clerk's office is the one that I was looking for, that was one that everybody mentioned. She, out of her non-payroll line item, she returned $1,609 last year. Out of 83,000. So she had two that went over quite a bit. We have to get budget amendments for them. Postal charges, and liability insurance. We got the total turned back in on that one's only $1,600. And then, there was another one, circuit court, something about circuit court, that I'm trying to remember.
So we have 5,300 in the register of deeds, 1,600 now, it's 66.
Well, no, that would be taking out the entire amount of the overage.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Yeah, because we don't want to cut it that time, because if we start basically having it by zero, then we have nothing to maintain the building. Because that's where that 50% of whatever comes back in goes into the capital funds project. So, yeah, so we don't want to cut this at top where we have nothing to repair a building that breaks.
Then that also would go crazy.
Do what?
That also would go crazy, we'd have to change the cuts in the wall. We're spending enough.
I think we're gonna be in good shape though.
We were talking about you. We spent enough, that's what you identified the same.
Okay.
We spent enough that Lowe's this year. Did you get them stock receipts? But I'm just saying every, every little bit, 50,000 here.
Go ahead. It's just
Did the clerk's office not give bonuses to the employees when there was money left at the end of the year last year?
Yeah, it's 35, they had 35,000 left at the end of last year, from where they basically did not have employees in those spots, it's not much over from that. So, but that's a total, that's like, just the salary, insurance, that's all of my items.
I think it's questionable when other departments aren't getting funds. And the county commission is trying to do things across the board. When we give a bonus or when we give a raise, and then a department just takes it upon himself or herself to do it within. I don't know, I struggle with that, I don't agree with it.
Well, they're elected officials, we can't tell them what they can and can't do with the salary line items. So,
The budget can be set such that that can't happen a second, or a third time. Because I think it's happened more than once. Is what I think I understand.
do they have any vacancies this year, clerk? So if they don't have any vacancies, there wouldn't be.
Well, just the part-time, they have somebody that, they don't have a true part-time person, they have somebody that they can, comes and goes as needed.
On this list, it just seems to me, it says that Ronnie is in charge of that office. Yeah.
Oh, she's supposed to take that off, sorry.
I agree with Danny, I think we go back and look at the clerk's budget.
I mean,
Get a little tough.
yeah, I mean,
Dale. This is for Dale. They had a proposed increase of almost 11,000 on their non-salary line items.
Now, on the clerk's office, there are a couple of things that are fees and things that she has to pay out. 2 or 3 of those are this year.
Postal charges, they were short almost 4,000 last year, and they only went up 2,000. And liability insurance, they were short 2,500, and it's been brought where it's supposed to be at.
And then there's another fee. There's
Workers'
another-
compensation went up, so you can't touch that one. Membership agreement, or
That's
sorry,
it.
maintenance agreements went up. No, sorry, these memberships went up, and the maintenance agreements went up.
Yeah, just about across the board, anybody that has software maintenance agreements, copier maintenance agreements, anything like that, across the board, 90% of that stuff this year.
But yeah, I think one of the things you were talking about was, is they had enough leftover team last year to give out bonuses. I'm assuming those bonuses would have been taken out before this June 30th deadline, right?
Yeah, those come out the salary lines, which I can't pay.
But correct me, not all of those they give was given by the 24 cents for, it was not projected in the line item for budgetary.
That's correct. That's correct.
Yeah, if they want to do, if they have money in their line item, and they want to do a salary increase within that line item, they can do it without any approval. If they want to do a bonus, it comes through as a budget amendment, and it usually comes through in May or June. I have not had any requests for this year. I did last year, but they came through as budget amendments.
Yeah. So we know about it.
Have approval to go with that slide.
Chair, may I ask a question?
Go ahead.
I guess the question would be is, how many years have they done? I mean, it's been multiple years that this has happened, that kind of would be, I mean, obviously, more impact on the budget, that even though they can make that decision, we don't need them to keep putting on this extra on, and cut it back. And what Kendra was saying, it's possible multiple years. Do you know that, Carolyn? If it's-
I would just know what
Like the
happened
future.
last year.
Yeah, and
There were some last year, there were,
that was the first year that I remember, at least the clerk's office doing anything like that. It's the first year I remember anybody's office doing something like that was last year.
there were a couple of them that said they had done it previously when they came to me and asked
Yeah.
for it. But there were 2 departments that had been understaffed, and they gave bonuses to the staff who had been there because of going above and beyond to make up for the missing staff.
Yeah, because
But like
I
I said, there have been no request for that this year.
think last year was, they were short 2 or 3 people last year at this time, and that was why they had given the bonuses, because they had the salary left over from 2.5 people, I think is what it was. And they did it at the sheriff's department, because of the president, this is a cool idea if you want to do it, so.
I thought they were using money for the budget
Yes.
to do it, just amend that transfer to more money.
Yeah.
But we didn't have any outside of that, no more.
No, it wasn't anything, it wasn't anything that was shady or anything like that. I mean, again, we can't tell them how they spend their salary line items. The only thing that we can do is if they ask for more people, we can say no.
Yes.
That was the implication, it was.
We got this big pack of what we're supposed to do.
So at this point, this is where we are on each of the department budgets, which I said there's about 90% of them there can be took out. Sheriff's Department's not in there. We had a couple of questions for Mike, who was not available today. I pulled out a couple of other ones that I had questions on, just to kind of ask those questions before they're presented. But I didn't know if you wanted to go back and look at it department by department based on the summary, or if you had any questions, or if you were ready to make other decisions before we start putting these into the main schedule.
These documents here, they contain.
Only
They
ones that
on the insurance, do they have the employee raises?
No, they
No
don't.
raises? Well, we just killed a dozen trees, so I don't know, stack over here the same thing.
Well, they have the insurance in them, and they have the cuts in them.
Get that. With this, you said, proof more of this until we get all the facts on the return. So the commissioners can say it to me, right, for the very last.
Yeah, well, I started saying, yeah, the only thing that's allowed there is the employee raises. Once you decide on that.
Well, but I mean,
Yep.
decide on that, move on with it.
We know that's $850,000 that we set where it is right now. So you can use that number to figure whether you can adjust up or adjust down.
What let's ask a dangerous question. What is the total as it stands right now? Not the total for the raises, but like the total here.
Or that one sheet, 9 million, and
Oh, is that it?
29 million, 11, so on. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, well, there's probably about, 3 or 4 departments that are missing that they're little.
Okay, that's fine.
9 million.
So you have 9 million, which is 533,000 up over last year. And does this include the sheriff's department raises on here?
No, we can have those out.
Okay, so so that one's not listed on
Yes,
this
we'll
one.
have that out.
Okay, so that was big.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm saying, we have to look at the bits and pieces. That one is already here, there's no change there, that was 1.5, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the total for what the sheriff department on the money on it,
With using the base of the earnout, 230, which comes out to $850,472. Added together, it's $2,353,406.
But I want to say the sheriff's department was actually a little bit higher than that, is that correct?
Yeah, theirs is at 1.205 with their $5, $1,205,933.
They're budgeted.
I'm looking at different,
Yeah, total budget.
we're talking about two different things, I think,
Yeah.
right? Because I want to say that their total amount was like 5 million.
Oh, you're talking about the whole.
Yeah, because it's like, I'm just looking at.
Yeah, but their increase is about 1.6, but we didn't put it in there because we knew Mike wasn't going to be here tonight, and there were a couple of minor adjustments that he wanted to discuss, so that's why we took it out, just because he wasn't here. It wasn't going to be.
Just the 20 different line items, it's gonna be about the same dollar amount. Where it was one thing, where it was.
Working with the base number that we have right now, at 2.5, with the employee worth $150,000. So we can work with that number there to come real close within a penny of what it is with the base.
Yep.
And then those things have to happen in the go ahead and update with.
So we need to give her a motion for what we want to set the raises at. We've got the numbers and we know roughly where it's gonna land at. We already know that the sheriff's department was 1.6 and change increase over last year. So that's, taking that into account, that's 16. And then the 850, that's 25. Do we get final clarification on the 500,000 from the school yet?
Yes, we're taking that back.
588 goes in.
Goes back in, yeah, so, for those that don't know, on those maintenance of effort, there was a question about one line item. And so I've been going back and forth with the Department of Ed. We can deduct that line item from our maintenance of effort, so that reduces it. However, to be fair, obviously, we gotta go back and I literally looked at every single line item. There was one other line item that was included that should not have been in the way the formula worked, because I had them sending me all the details. And so I had to take that back out, so the net was about 558,000. So that's more money that the county has, that we didn't think we had before.
So
That was the cost, so
instead of
it pretty much offsets this difference pretty close.
the school system difference, so that was just a wash, so we don't have to worry about that anymore.
That was the one that was previously said it was 700 something else.
Yes. Yeah, and it took probably 2 weeks to get clarification on that, and I think it was just, this is all new with the TISA formula, this is all new, so there's a lot of questions going back and forth, and a lot of additional research that needed to be done, and we had to do a lot of research to even find out what that was. It dates back into the 1970s, and so it took a minute to try to figure that out, and then give that to them, and then they came back with more information, but that's where we're at right now, and that adjustment has been made in the school department budget already.
Okay, so, it basically washed out because their increase was 558,000.
It pretty much washed it out.
Okay. But there's no additional revenues over, because I remember you and I had a conversation with it, we thought it was gonna be additional revenues over. but
Yeah, I
it's
thought it was gonna be the 760, but that's why I went line by line, just to be sure, because I didn't want to change it again. The school system budget, though, I have not brought back yet, because we still do not have the final number from the Department of Ed. Now, they're telling me they don't anticipate it to change from what we presented before, but same thing, we don't want to print that big packet out again until we know. So it's not been presented to the school department again, and it's not going to be presented here. Hopefully, we'll have that number by the first of June, maybe. I thought we already have it, so that's why I say maybe I don't really know at this point.
So 533, 11, or 16, 1,600.
We're kind of rough draft of the overall number.
Yeah.
We're going to get down to the jail bonds, so it's good.
Oh, yeah. Jail bonds. $1 million.
Yes, but we're also getting a little over $1 million for the SRO, so that's all sales.
So, but we're already funding the SROs, is what you're saying.
Well, they offset each other. That's in the governor's budget to give basically the county the money instead of the safety grant to the schools.
Uh-huh.
And they pretty close to offset each other. One of them was like $1,090,000, and the other one was $900,000.
Okay, so that washes
washed
out.
out.
Okay.
The thing about that is, let's put the following year. Is that going to be an annual?
Yes.
I think so, but I mean, I haven't read all of it, but it's not,
Anything about the grant.
yeah.
It's like they give the school system a grant every year, the governor basically pushed it up where it was an officer at every school. So they just increased the amount of the grant up to however many schools you have, or how much money we give you to fund SRO officers at the specific dollar.
But I guess since it is in the governor's budget, I mean, it will depend on what his budget is every year, so
It
it's,
depends on who the governor is.
yeah, you'll have one easier. Yeah.
If that happens, you see right off the bat.
Hopefully, we get the federal inmate contract back, then that will offset it going forward from there.
Could.
You know, I wonder.
It did historically, it always gave us a little bit of a surplus, so.
those dollars would be used to pay down this building. It's not strike saying.
Yeah, that's what we're talking about. That's what we're talking about. The federal inmate, that contract offset that. And now that we don't have the federal contract, we would be on the hook for the bond. The governor's fund, the governor's thing came through and now funded all the SRO officers. So instead of, we're still gonna use the money to fund the SRO officers, but it's going to free up the salary lines for those officers to pay bonds.
Yeah, those SRO salaries were already in his budget.
When we did the budget information for the sheriff's department, I think you said you had a couple things to work on that to be reflected in those.
Yeah, they were in there before. So the
Understood.
SROs were already in his budget as being fully staffed for each school.
We just have $1 million in change coming in that will technically go into his budget to pay the salaries for those SRO officers. Then we will have the excess funding cap to move and pay the jail bonds.
Yeah,
But we
otherwise
can't
they would
use-
be under shortage.
Exactly. So we don't have to worry about that. So we've got 1.6, the 533,000 increase here. And then the 800 and how much for the 2.5? 850. We'll say
854.
That's basically a $3 million difference.
3 million.
Yeah, 2,983,000 and change. Obviously, there's other change in there because we're guesstimating it about 1.6 for the sheriff's office, so it could be a little lower, a little bit higher.
Now, those who get we make, we consider two while we're looking at our numbers, is to make sure that we can verify the second year. Because we know inevitably, we're going to have an increase in taxation in the county. And we're covering everything this fiscal year coming up. Well, the following year, I definitely don't want to be a year, instead of we're going to raise the tax again, because we didn't fit it right next year.
If you want to figure it in, then we're at 3.98. 3.98 million. We don't need to vote to set the value of the Canadian dollar, what? Okay.
The last time we used this river was one liquor.
When we're at a point where we're ready to do that, then I will go to Ronnie, and because we still don't have 100% of the information on the ratio difference. According to what Ronnie has talked to CTAS about, and I've looked at too, it does make sense that they probably offset each other. Last year, we valued Penny 104, which was undervalued. This year, we're talking about maybe 109, 110. I don't think we ought to go above that, but when we're ready to do that, which it sounds like we kind of are, I can go back to him and say, okay, what is it now? We looked at what it was this time last year. We can see what the new is based on that difference, and then I can go in and set that number.
Okay. Well, we'll have to set it in the next budget meeting. Unless we have another one between now and the next scheduled budget. So that'll be one thing that'll be, we'll do it in June, is we'll set the value of opinion, it'll go from the front of the full commission to the rest of this.
Well, we thought probably work to do in between that and here now. We've not voted on any of the departments at all.
We can run down through most of the departments, well, we can't here because we don't have the final numbers.
That's right, what I'm saying, until you get the final set locked in numbers, with the exception of two items. One is the employee raise, and the other is outside aid.
So are we set on outside agencies at the moment? Because if we're set on it,
No.
because I thought the last thing we had talked about, the only ones that we were giving any funding to was Butler, EMS, and the fire departments. And so Okay. So we're,
There's a thing with the dose of, we could look at before, these are controlled and
You would not foresee that. There's a possibility of a 30-cent increase to me personally. I think it's extremely high.
3 cents, you
30 cents.
think? Oh, yeah, 30 cents right now, yeah,
So,
totally.
yeah, right now as you go, well, to me, that's extremely high. Well, I have to take aggressive action to lower that. Now, where that goes, that's the one that's I wish I had about. Because the only thing that, to me, that I would say is what serves 100% of this county every day, and that is your first responder, gets the priority. Second would be federal contract. Federal agencies that are stationed here is the second part of it. Intended to be a war between anything else other than other groups. Period, 1.0.
To your point, I would say that all of us are at zero when we come before the commission with what they need, these are more operational. This is what makes us say.
So the only ones we were talking otherwise was the school conservation and federal library, right?
Yeah, soil conservation, public library,
First Tennessee Development.
First Tennessee Development, because several of these we can't touch.
Yeah, exactly.
Public library we can't touch,
First Tennessee,
Can't touch.
First Tennessee Development District, First Tennessee Human Resource.
You know,
Yeah.
the stuff for fire departments.
And do we really want to touch the shepherds in it?
I think it's like different, look.
it's no different. I think, I've seen
I mean, they put it back
it.
in, we're gonna do it. I
We
mean,
pay the mortgage for it, that's all we do.
But it is a very vital main source now to one of our departments. It's extremely. You know, the end of the agency, I know that, but that would put a larger number on your sheriff's department than what's presently done.
They do provide home service.
And children's advocacy center,
And they'll be the first ones to the doors asking for the money if they.
Yeah. yeah, because we cut them by $2,000 and they were full of panic.
Well, the home will have certain individuals that's going to respond to it, but, sorry.
It's a topic, I mean, we're not gonna pull it out of, that's on fund balance versus budgeting for it. Say whatever money you can, but that increase all, I think it's the two are all different.
So in that being, that means you'll be somewhere between 5 and 9 cents reduction.
More than that.
Well, it may be,
Yeah.
you're going to a 75-year-old kid here, son. I'm not, that you're not.
We're basically saying everybody at zero that isn't, that we can. So what you're saying is we leave Butler Fire Department, EMS, fire departments, we can't change EMS anyway because we're going to accept the contract. Rescue and 911, which we can't change because we're already going to accept the contract. And then,
It was.
yeah, I said Butler. He said that. Yeah. And so,
Why would it be?
well,
Ours is our present maintenance.
yeah, they're emergency service. And
That is least oriented, unless you just don't.
Chairman,
yeah, go ahead.
my suggestion, just as an outside restaurant profit, I would suggest to keep your locals, like butts and fishes and chickens in. And if you're gonna look at anything, both of those, I know butts and fishes fees. I know there's others on here that feed too. And I know when, St. Martin's Effective presents, they said that it's $10,000 for 100 kids to get a backpack on the weekend. And I get that. But our agencies and their agencies are already feeding these children for 100 kids. Now, I'm just saying, our agencies buy from St. Martin's. I mean, I just bought a pallet of peaches for $2,000. So I'm just telling you, we're buying and giving money out of our county to Second Harvest, and I do know that what Loaves and Fishes buy from Second Harvest is also funding Second Harvest. So if we fund Loaves and Fishes, you're also funding Second Harvest, because it gives them money to buy food from Second Harvest. So if it comes down to it, keeping this local, Shepherd's Inn and Loaves and Fishes, would make more sense, because you're still giving them money to spend at Second Harvest.
Right, and it's down to it, that only serves a small little dog in this county. If we have to make it to where it serves everybody.
Yeah, but I mean, in between Second Harvest, Loaves and Fishes.
In between
and Shepherd's Inn.
Well, even if we have to take, here's the cost, if they want to, I'll put $30 over the savings account you want.
What Mr. Johnson is saying is basically is you're not a first responder, and the ones that we have to fund come and cut back out in July or August. So, and because we can say here, because just like I said with the Shepherd's Inn, that's something that we absolutely need, and that's a service that is absolutely necessary, but it's not one that we absolutely have to fund. Same for Isaiah House, absolutely great work, but it's not something that we absolutely have to fund. This way, we're not picking and choosing any winners and losers, we're just saying, come back in.
We have to keep the commission's point consider too, there's nothing for them coming before the commission, and they get in the problem year and year, because we do not know, they may be additional revenue that props his head up in the middle of the fiscal year, and we accept it. And that's where we.
And too, and I think what Greg had said, it may be some of these outside agencies start talking more grants, once they see that the county is starting to get strapped for funds, and they just don't depend on us every year, because they're depending on us every year, and it just, some years may not be as good as others. This one's not one of those years,
It's
so.
not a public where you, I don't want anybody to feel that we think that they are not worthy of it, and they don't work for it. But, you know, over a period of time, there has to be some that is taken for granted, where it comes in every year. You just get it every year. But now we're down to where we've got to be more financially responsible. And that may cause them to get up on there and say, okay, we need to go out and find some more revenue outside in our communities and in our churches, which, well, that's in the white book, of course.
They may have a great company, you know, that they don't have that.
Well, but,
If we decide to do that, then there should be an official letter of each one of these outside agencies explaining why we did what we did. That's a courtesy to them, you know, this is the reason we can't give you this money, but you can come in later in the year and we might be able to help you with your need. But I think we need to do that as a professional way to get the work.
Well, who will send out that professional letter? We can't have any more Carolyn. We're gonna have to do.
right on. You can do it in one paragraph. I'll take that from you.
I know we said this, and glad the mayor brought it back up. We started this process with outside agencies. We asked them to submit where they are funded from grants. And we didn't get a lot of response as they came before us. They are working urgently to seek those grant funds out. I am almost to the point of saying, if you get grant funding, we'll match it.
There's so much grant funding out there right now. I mean, it's a robust amount of grant funding. I mean, I look at grants all day long, from the smallest to the largest. But it's money for the taking.
And I think we'll have to force them to do that. So that they don't always depend on it. I don't want to do, as I've said before, I don't want to do it Washington County this time. Cut out all outside funding agencies. But they've got that, as I've said before, they've got that extra skill.
It comes to $178,809.60.
What it said, bring her down,
And I'm not sure on
I
the,
could bring her down between 13 and 17.
The rehab center, I'm not sure if we have to fund that one 100% or not.
I think we do, do we not, Lynn?
I'm not sure on that one.
No.
I don't think we do.
Rehabilitation center?
Did anybody come and present, has everything?
Yes, he came and presented.
Yeah.
So what they do is they help
Yeah.
challenge folks to get jobs and learn life skills and different things like that, so.
They have worked, relationships with licensed.
2 years ago, they had a director who showed up and he asked for like, how much was it? 75,000 extra dollars or something. Just so they could hire another employee, you know, we're like, no. But yeah, if they come out well, it's little less than a penny, it's a little, around a penny and penny change, penny and a quarter, penny and a half, something like that. So,
And instead of things like that, we're doing what we initially said in that first meeting, which is our employees first. That's all I care about right now. I mean, I care about all these, and I know what we do, I see them. But I also know that Hardee's was running an extra special, so like every time you came in, you could donate to an organization. Walmart did the same thing for Hardee's on here. So they're getting in the monies, and it's not like they can't come to us later. I mean, I just have to treat them on hold for right now, so we can initially think they can get
I'll share this story with you. A couple of Fridays ago, I did the county employee plant from Barker's. We were in the parking lot, one of the county employees sit down beside me and started crying. It was heartbreaking, telling me that, you know, she was using Lowe's, which is a lot. One of our county employees has probably been here 20+ years. And that was a true story. She sit down beside me, we were big time here. So that's, our county employees are using our
Our
normal
services.
services that we're supporting, and it's, you know, it's sad, and that's heartbreaking.
I thought it was a great idea. Let's all join hands around the rock and take a break.
Fresher idea. You like it? Deal with it, man.
don't be back yet. Live action.
Hey, I feel the same way. I have the same thought.
All right. So point of clarification for everybody, on the insurance changing, any insurance change reductions, the 132 is not an additional cost that we have to pay, it's calculated into everything else, so it's actually 116,252 total savings.
Yes.
And then for 192, 271 from the other side, and then the, Chad, did you check my numbers?
What's that?
178,809, the correct one on the outside agencies?
Come up to 152, 309,
152, 309?
22, 23 amount. That's what you're going for.
I came up with a different amount. Okay,
Oh, okay.
let's clarify.
All right, so I'll start at the top.
So I'm just gonna say what I have marked that we're including.
Okay,
Butler Fire Department at $10,000.
okay,
Carter County Soil Conservation at 44.
okay,
Carter EMS, 577,470.
okay.
Carter County Fire Departments, is it 525 or is it 469?
Yep. Somewhere.
469.
469.
Okay. Carter County Rescue, 200,000.
No,
That's
That was last year, it's already on the contract.
That's right. Carter County Emergency Communications, 911, 265,885.
Yep, already agreed to the contract.
Elizabeth Public Library is 75,000.
Okay,
First Tennessee Development, 1315.
Yep.
First Tennessee Human Resource, 30,570.
Yep.
What else?
And
The only other one that's questionable is that we those questions down, that's, I don't think it was. You want me to include it until we find out for sure?
don't include it, let it back.
first bus in there next year.
Well, it's just such an odd amount, if it was a per capita number or something, they were only thinking required per capita basis. So
Well, first citizen human resources per capita basis is a weird number.
I don't think First Tennessee Human Resources is required.
No,
First Tennessee Development District is.
yeah, it's an odd number.
It's a per capita.
And that's-
Human Resource Agency is
Probably
special.
saying the person you can read will do that.
Yeah, that is, net trans and everything, that's who provides those services.
But a lot of these are not,
So we're not including that in the list, correct?
the 30,000 offsetting.
What do you think, Richard?
First citizen human resources.
You taking that out?
$21 million.
They have a very different. First Tennessee Human Resources.
$7 million.
Is that in their budget? I didn't know. It's a long time since I did this.
Yeah, they have a building. We've had some other mayors.
They don't feel bad.
That's why I brought up that it's not.
The total is 1,684,055.
$1,684,000. And
65.
55.
55,000.
Drops us to $85,000 increase over last year. Because the amount approved was $1,599,499. And the number of calendar days was $1,684,055, which is an $85,000 increase.
you calculate the fire department's in, or the fire department's in at 469 instead of 525?
Yes.
That's what I think.
That's Carolyn's number.
Okay, I didn't. So it was-
That's the increase over last year, we were, or this contract, we had to increase from what we were looking at.
Yeah, it's a 200 and some odd $1,000 drop. Because we were looking at 1.91, now it's 1.68.
About $500,000 off in our West. So,
Yeah, almost, yeah. Now, the original total is 235 rather than 170. It's 235,694. So. Brad did not make double
You're
that line.
gonna do things and stuff, no, we're doing this.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure they will. So,
So it's 530,755.35. Now, so that leaves us with two things. Leaves us with two things so Carolyn can finish up, I think. Well, two things that we can do that Carolyn needs to finish up. One is to set the employee raise amount, and two is to finalize outside agencies. So, yeah, we still got to have a motion. Motion to approve the dollar amount. $1,684,055. $1,684,055. Basically, the only thing we're going to be funding is first responders. Now, before we go into that, did we want to leave the 9,000 in for Elizabeth and City? Fire department?
Yes, I didn't take that out.
You did or did not?
I did,
You did.
because you didn't mention that.
What that 9,000 covers is the training that they do for us on an annual basis for all the volunteer fire departments. And I'm just clarifying.
I did ask.
I'm just clarifying. So that is what that is for. They basically do, I think it's either annually or biannually that they run those courses for those guys.
You know, those courses provide certification, which will take you to get the same training side of the
That is the standard training for the bid. That's the information that I received.
supposed to be basic training before they don't have to go to field.
Correct.
So,
And they do it with their own overtime, their own everything, so that was. And if we were to send them, we would have to pay for it. So anyway,
And I did something on that. Yeah. I had a conversation a few months back with, we completely did, Chris at the camp volunteer.
They did not get any training this year about Elizabeth. They had set it up 3 different times Elizabeth County. So they were in the process of trying to get their own training outside the city of Elizabeth.
Thank you, Mr. Stink, that's what I wanted to say, that get one.
The rent out, so that in-house rather than
Now, they got people from other departments to come over and do the classes for them. You know, the city didn't float out people, they didn't have time.
Some of the county departments have certified trainers. And they go different departments. So there's a lot of setup for that.
Stretching, yeah, here, but do any of our volunteer fire departments utilize this term?
I don't think it's an issue. I don't think it's an issue. From what people are saying.
My understanding was that the Elizabeth City Fire shows some interest in jumping in like that. And I did not hear that from the same location that I did. So, I think that is real, I came from 2 different sides. And I've always been in favor of helping and getting the money, you know. But that money's there for a reason, and that reason is not all right now.
Well, it's already removed the 1,681,055. So we don't have to add it back in.
Yeah.
So who is? As I like to so proverbially say,
without being fully ready, which is $870,000. Where does that leave us roughly?
well, without the sheriff's department, well, okay, so let's go by what we know. We know we've got, well, 1,650,000, is that right? One versus 1,550,000 for the sheriff's department, and then 825, and then schools awash.
Include raises.
Yeah, 825. Oh, wait,
5470.
Sorry, it was in the bracket.
Did you want that?
And the general increases from this other list, which is 533,275.85. Puts you at 3,033,275.85.
300.
No, 3,033,000, so 3,033, 275.85. And I think there was a general suggestion that we could reduce the tax relief fund by 20 or 30,000, 20 to 30,000. And it would still be quote unquote okay. But if we had to change it later on here, it would be a budget amendment, which is fine.
What about the phone systems, Mayor? That contract already on that?
What's going on with the phone system is, I think that we put these phones in probably 10 years ago. T&M's going out of business and the phones are obsolete. So right now, if somebody breaks a phone or something tears up, we don't have one to get it. What he does have are refurbished and they're still running around $300, so we have to get them. So we've been kind of borrowing phones. I know Carolyn, we have to start for phones and share phones. It's just, we don't really have a choice. You know, it's,
We have a contract, we have a contractual agreement.
No, we don't have a contract with TNM, that's just who put the phone system in and who services it, it's kind of like a one-source situation. They may have done on the bid process, I'm not real sure how they ended up with it happening at the time. But apparently we need a voice over IP is what we need, and with the technology that's going in, and these are just obsolete, and like our planning department, it's not connected to our main building, we still drop out the full number, so it's in desperate need of replacement.
Well, don't forget, if you go voice over IP, you're gonna have to increase the bandwidth in the building.
Yeah, and he's apparently working on this, that's what he said.
So this is something that could come out of the unassigned fund balance.
To keep in mind that this is building service and equipment, and that qualifies into the building and grounds for capital improvement. And we don't know yet a number of what the returns will be at the end of the year and what the present balance is.
Well, would that one qualify? Because if that were the case, then it would be computers as well.
I don't think that's what
I don't think that would qualify.
I think that's why I had to budget it into my budget. And that could be more, a little bit higher than what we expect. He wasn't real sure, we needed to kind of got an overall, so we get something in the budget, it could come well in under 100,000. We're just not 100% on it, that's the closest he got to it, he was trying to get me a little plug on it.
So if we don't have an agreement, then we can take this out. Pay for that one, unassigned fund balance. Correct.
That would be possible.
So that's not.
You can do it now and just pull it, because we need it right now, if you all want to do that, that's perfectly fine. Then when we get to the project, I can bring it to you and you guys can remember. But, so I'm perfectly fine if you want to do that, if you want to pull that out now, and let's just wait until we get closer to it. We always like to budget and prepare, so you don't have to come back in, but I understand this is different times, and you can treat me like you treat me outside.
Bring your ticket.
And I'm fine with that.
So we're taking the 150 out, we're taking out the amount for, the tax relief, and it's setting it back to what it was.
Yeah, and the tax relief line's been in my budget for the past 2.5 years. We've never utilized that whole amount, and then Chad asked for the increase. I understand what he's wanting to do, but during this time, it's hard to put an increase in a budget line when you're not fully utilizing it anyways. And so we don't really know what this tax increase will do until it happens, and then he may have to increase that line. That'll be the same thing, same situation. I mean, the difference, going back to 64. On that, on the back door.
Is that what everybody wants to do, is go back to the 217 number? Everybody want to go back to the 217 number? So the general consensus is to take 25 out of tax relief, and then 150 for the phone system. Got one other. Okay,
Well, you could do the car for EMA. If it's necessary. These are different times. That's $50,000, that's $47,000.
the man's right there. How about your car?
Hey, if it will help give our employees a raise, I'm willing to sway.
Well, the raise is inevitable. Right now, we're deciding on the tax rate.
Sheriff's Department. Maybe you want the Sheriff's Department's office.
No.
The old office.
I know.
No, well, the
I
old.
got some. You don't need a huge. You don't need
How about that Magnum or the Mercury?
We settled for a used one 6 years ago, this time we're looking for a new one, because we've got two that's 11 years old and one 15-year-old.
I mean, he really is.
I know
And
I mean, I
I draw the shortest straw.
take 550 or whatever from me if we need to, just to, I mean, they got.
You can pay her asses.
You,
She'll bring it.
you, whatever, but really just, I mean, they do, I mean, they really do need people. I mean, I know it's,
I don't doubt.
you probably see the city.
Don't doubt that one bit.
I know you do.
Because you've been good to sport. Well, good. Sometimes decisions is hard, and that's hard.
Maybe I can set that better, see if it's on.
Yeah, they are. And like I say, you know, I'll try to work with y'all anyway, no doubt.
What is the current unassigned fund balance, correct? That we can, because I know we have to keep like 6 million in there. Yeah, we have to keep like 6.8 million in there.
Yeah, there's a lot now, but I'm thinking, I can go look, but
It's always normally covered around 10.
yeah, I'm thinking it's 10, 11.
Maybe just a little under.
We have sufficient funds left, but we won't have to be guarded year to year. Maybe you look at this previous year, looking on board years we have right now, and evaluate what items that came in under that was. Could not be foreseen by the budget year prior to. I was coming up immediately, which we've been pretty refusal on, so we won't observe. Can for everything we've talked about.
Yeah, but we also remember that the building and ground, the capital projects fund is almost empty. Isn't it?
Well, I've got to find out if the differential for the windows rolls back to that reserve, which would fund about 300,000 of it back, or if it goes into fund balance. Because the windows came out less than what we initially thought.
It should roll back under that.
I think it rolls back into the
But
reserve,
it needs to, because it's not,
so that will fund it, but also keep in mind, and of course, it's still too early to tell because the feeding frenzy is just starting for year end, is what we're gonna roll into fund balance, which of course it'll get split.
Right.
So it's kind of still hard to tell, we're still trying to close POs, and everybody's gonna have their POs in within the next 2 weeks. So I don't really know what that number is, but
You
I
really
think it'll
won't
be
have
close.
that till the end of August, sometime in September.
Yeah.
That's when we completely close out. So,
Yeah.
that's about when it comes out every year, is end of August, first September, time.
I don't think it will be as much this year as it has been over the last 2 years. So based on what it looks like right now.
Looking at what has been said, fire department, all that, we're gonna be about, close to about 6 less on the floor. Most of the on the center fund balance.
Yeah.
That what our previous year. was. Because they had to use.
Well, yeah, we told them to cut and cut and cut and cut and cut and cut.
just inflationary times, we moved and moved, we wanted that decisive, it's about to move on.
Clarify what I was asking, like, we had a little concept, circle back, we need to try to make over that.
So,
No way, where's the movie?
Cody's like, look, we're making sure we've got something. Or we tell everybody to come back.
Before we tell them whether we circle back, or we need to,
That's why I was, passed down there, it was like 614, 617, whoa, what?
yeah, that's the amount we have to keep in there for general operating costs. That's the amount that has to stay in there, basically.
So now we're at 7.1.
2.33. 285, 275, 185. That's not including taking the other card.
285.
285,
Please don't put it.
827, 5.85. Change the cadence.
This is a little bit off topic, but may I ask a question concerning vehicles?
Sure.
So whenever, the mayor was involved in that wreck, that car was totaled, right? Where is that car now? And is it possible to fix it and say it again.
We can't do that.
They declared it total.
That was,
So that, does like the insurance company keep it when that happens?
yes, they kept it, they gave us the money for it, and the new vehicle has already been ordered. It was like-
They didn't go with the,
Hang on, how much can we sue on behalf of
Well, $75.
Training, they
I'm thinking about $2.8 million sounds about right.
Trying to go down and bring all these millions home and got me killed.
If you remember the patrol car, in the,
Those got half million, two of them cut half, make one whole.
that, smoking van,
Mm-hmm.
you know, like, top shot, and he's in, you load up the middle, that's what we call sitting there, right there.
Looked like something from the Dukes of Hazzard, one of Roscoe's cars.
So you get a time from
I'm with you, I'm with you.
But I would say in that 2.8, that we were plus or minus 2 cents a would be
Easy, easy. Because, again, like you said, we could be as far as, it's actually -2 to +12. Because we don't know if the grant is gonna be there again next year for the SRO officers. So if you take that into consideration, it could be as high as 4. Nope.
And look for that,
I would like that would be legislation
Settle
where,
down a little bit on it.
when you got that finance deficit legislation, where that's locked in with the Department of Education in the state. Annually, I don't know for a fact that or not, whether it's included.
Oh, my.
Because that is a big thing on the second year that we have to be paying over about.
Yeah, it's like, we put it at 30 cents last year, that's not it, more this year. Then you have 10 cents surplus.
I'm gonna pick on one, Mr. Chair.
Oh, Parks and Rec, we haven't met yet, we haven't met since the last time that we talked, we're gonna work on it tomorrow.
One we'll pick on this, because see, if you go back in your mind, and all the other members, I hadn't heard Layla's voice for the first time in years, I not heard those red signs on what she thinks.
On what?
That's one of them. But no, Parks and Rec, we are gonna come back, we're gonna go back in and take a look at it. A lot of it, like I said, a lot of it's maintenance and where people just crap up our cars, so. But I don't think it was 170, I thought it was less than that.
Park and Rec,
Yes.
173.
173. Yeah, 173, I think that was the total. I didn't jump back in my emails. But I sent Chad the totals.
Yeah, that's what we had.
Yeah, I was gonna bring that up, because that's a.
Because really, the only thing that changed this year was,
Last year.
all that changed this year was just some funding for,
there was some extras.
That needs to be considered.
yeah. Well, like I said, we haven't met yet, so haven't had the opportunity.
When do y'all leave?
Next Tuesday.
Well, we did agree.
Don't look at me, don't look at me. Because essentially Parks and Rec, everything in Parks and Rec is an outside agency. Because all they liaise with the fringe groups that we are already funding. And so for Sorba, River Apes, Friends of Rome Mountain. What else? Oh, and then Cat Creek Park. So if you cut out the Parks and Rec budget, then they're not gonna maintain the parks. So that's what we have to fall back on the main office to maintain.
And there may be some sober this too, and I think my last discussion with the mayor concerning park and recreation, we're getting ready to, we've been selected for the 6.5 million, 6.3 for the trail and all that. And I mentioned in conversation to our finance director, we need to look a little bit deeper into it, see about, we're getting grants that we are allowed to use certain percentage or a portion or a normal amount for administrative. So that way, we're not getting dumped on in here. And it also may give us some extra for when the park and recreation. When that comes, you're going to have to create one. You don't have no alternative. Because there's maintenance on every good. And then you get not a single person maintenance. Two is the minimum.
The objective is still to work with Sorba for the majority of the maintenance on the trail, just like they do for Hampton Watershed, and for the trail extension, the bridge, all of that stuff. So we probably won't have to have an individual that would go into that role. We would just be funding Sorba to have them absorb the majority of the cost.
To assist them, maybe greater than what we have our own.
But you're looking to hire a Parks and Rec director, you're looking, well, it goes back to what I presented 2 years ago, about $180,000 a year, $170,000 a year.
Our money cheaper than. I mean, my gosh, money.
Well, that gives you one person and one part-time person at that rate, plus the actual funding of the funding of the stuff, and that was only like a $55,000 salary.
It's about 202, 300. So they, with that kind of mileage, facility, even with forward, or whoever they are, that's a lot of maintenance to maintain.
The Sorba for Hampton Watershed, it runs, I want to say it's about 11,000 a year for maintenance up there, that's what it is. And then the River Apes is about, well, they asked for more this year so they could fix a lot of stuff at the park, because at Rudy Bridge Landing, because majority of the stuff there has been trashed, like all the picnic tables need to be resurfaced. They need to reinstall stuff, different things like that this year. Same for Real Mountain, the only thing they asked for was just money to do maintenance on, extra maintenance on stuff up there, so.
They would put some holes in that.
Just as a point of reference, we put up a gate over the bridge that said trespassing dangerous, do not cross. They ripped it up and shoved it into the Dover. So.
I know the maintenance on the foot trail per year is almost $1,000 a month. So you're looking at a lot of dollars to maintain that trail.
Well, City of Elizabeth, and this will be technically Carter County's first, what is it, 1.4 miles? So it's gonna be about, let's say $2,000 to maintain just that section, plus the extra maintenance on the bridge. But the bridge they're putting in is a steel bridge with steel substructure, so it's not gonna be something that's just gonna deteriorate like wood and have to be replaced shortly over time. It's gonna be covered as well, so it's not gonna be over the elements as much as something else would be. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, I was texting and looking it up, so that SRO grant, it is reoccurring, so it's not into a bill. So that investment is there, so to make sure I text Trustee Crowe, and he did say it is recurring funding for years to follow. So there's your answer about that, so that helps you move on. But because it's not into a bill, they have to provide that business.
So there we go. That saves, that, so now we're down plus or minus 2 cents. Plus or minus 2 cents. On
2.8.
On 2.8. So it's either as high as 3.5, 3.05, or as low as 2.65. Plus or minus 2 cents. Rough numbers, because we haven't set the other part of the meeting, so I'm just, for easy numbers, I'm just saying 100 grand. Because when we go at 110,
Well, you get certain court and,
that's not really, not that.
No, I don't think we'll get it out. It's about 26 cents right now.
So now with those, that means the cost factor remaining is the employees.
Yep. So if we go any higher than 250, that number goes up.
That's exactly right. So that's the city.
So the floor is open for a motion so we can get this stuff done.
Is that the split that we talked about? 250 for full-time, 125 for part-time?
Yes. Is that correct, Aaron? The split, 250 for full-time, 125 for part-time? Or is that 250 for just flat everybody?
Part-time, part-time side. That's what we said. I think so.
I'll go back and look to be sure.
Okay.
Okay, now the last sheet put out, by the time department will be working with the sheriff department, correction department, in the different values of the hourly, or the annual, the hourly increase. And we said that 250 came in at 850,000. Now, the next, schedule amount is $3. Now, each can go 275 or 280, or then, but it's $3. That comes up to $1,022,000, which is, 2,200, a little more,
177 more.
to do, whichever in that range, if you all have in mind, look at that part.
Basically, every quarter that we go up is 1 penny on the tax rate.
So specifically on the issue of the rest of the county employees that, he's talking about her on that list, I'll make a motion to approve that at 250 full-time, 125 part-time. And we'll discuss the prior meeting.
We have a motion on the floor. We have a second. Second by Julie Moore. Discussion time.
Would you repeat the motion? I can't hear you.
I apologize. We said a motion for 250 for full-time, that's excluding the sheriff's department, of course. And 125 part-time, just half.
What is the median pay per hour for our employees outside the sheriff's department? Is it 15 an hour, 18 an hour?
No, it's like, what, 14?
Yeah.
Median? No,
Median.
median's like 1250 or something like that. It's low.
We have nobody below 10.
We have nobody below 10. But the closest to 10 is at 1071.
Okay. Are y'all sure it's not higher than 1250? Because I've seen some numbers.
And I go in there and look, I've got a spreadsheet that shows that, we bring that employee level detail in here. But I mean, I go look, I can run look.
Also remember that if it's all the county employees, that may include the school system, and if it does, the central office blows that number out of the water. That'd kill it. Because they have multiples making considerably more.
If you take the school system out, and you take the sheriff's department out, and it's probably closer to 11 to 13, right? Because those are your five.
Yeah.
I mean, you've got maybe a handful of.
They're giving 11% raise to your central office and then cutting employees out of schools. Figure out.
Well, my point is this. Percent of change is calculated by the difference divided by the original. So if we give them a 250 an hour raise, I'd like for you all to look at what percentage increase that is. While I've been a commissioner, we have given bonuses and or raises every year. We've tried to catch them up as best we can, and we passed the policy that nobody would make less than 10 an hour. If you suggest a 250 an hour raise on somebody that makes about $12 an hour, I'm just gonna use that number because it's thrown out there. You all realize that that's approaching a 20% raise. Who do you know outside these laws that get teacher raise anywhere like that. My husband is lucky to get 3% a year. We jump up and down, and how many years he gets 3%. I'd like for you all to do the math behind the numbers that you throw out, please.
Well, it's also considered that there was a 12-year span where nobody got a raise.
That was where us, yeah.
Yes. That 12 years leading up to when you and I and several others came on, it was 12 years with zero raises.
That's
Zero. That's why we're in the mess that we're in right now.
At the present, our lowest paid employees in the landfill. And that's at 29,148. So
Which translates to,
Divided by 40 and then divided by 52.
There's some at the landfill, there's some at the landfill, and there's some at the, animal shelter that are right around the $10. Because the animal shelter was, well, just in general, I guess, yeah, some of them, even the part-timers are now $10. We fixed that last year because there were some still in the $9-ish range. We pushed them up to 10. But there are some employees, but part of the reason that we did, of course, last year we did a flatter now, is it brings the lower people up a little bit instead of giving more of the raise to the higher employees. They get less of a percentage basically by doing it at a flat amount as opposed to a percentage. So that was the only differential there. But yes, the lower paid employees get a much higher percentage wise, but your higher level employees get a much lower. By doing it that way.
now your animal shelter, the lowest is 22,880. And the highest is 27,900. And it's 540.
That was out for the regular.
So
I mean, same like the landfill, there's, most of them are at the lower end. You've got basically the director's salary is up here, but everybody else is coming down.
So without the flat, you do a percentage, with the ones that make them.
Yep.
So this flat was able to take everybody and bring them up.
And it made it more fair across the board. It made it more fair.
Well, that's one of the impact is more than the
Yeah.
overall.
early on,
That's one thing.
I think one of the first raises we did was like a 5% raise. And it went through, and then we all kind of realized after the fact, it's like, oh, I didn't really do a whole lot. And so, because the cost was the same, basically the way we did it, but it has more of an impact on the local rate. Is it?
Just a thought, so you said it's been 12 years since May, I mean, they've been waiting it out for a raise. But not all the employees have been here 12 years, some are brand new employees. So why not have it to where those that have been here longer, like say, if they've been here 8 years or 10 years, then they get a certain rate. And then those that haven't been here as long get a different rate because they haven't waited out for 12 years for a raise. There needs to be something there for those that have stuck this out and have been here all these years and showed up every day, even though they did not get that raise. Then the ones that just walked in the door are getting the same thing. That is not also showing them how much we appreciate them. That's just the thought.
Are you volunteering to calculate it?
Well, I have been through the entire, staff, I mean, everybody who's employed, and I have color coded who's been here how many years. And I can tell you, you will be shocked. I mean, we have one person at the animal shelter that's been here 18 years and makes less than some of them, that's just not high. There's other departments, some I'm assuming that's probably close to retirement. There's somebody in the highway department that has been there, like, I think I had it at 40 something, I'm not sure y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, he's been here 44 years, making pretty much what everybody else is. I know it sounds difficult with numbers, I'm just saying, if that was you, sitting there, and the person's just been here a year or two, and they're about to make exactly what you make, same raises and everything, that you've been here, 12 or 13 years? Is that how it works for a normal job? It's not like normally.
Yes.
There's one problem with that, though. I agree with you that longevity is important. But the one problem with that is retaining your newer employees and making it, being able to keep your workforce full. Because if you don't, bring those employees up, you're not gonna have, you're not gonna keep your workforce full.
You might have to do an entry level and then something for those that's been here longer. I'm just saying.
And you mentioned that somebody at the animal shelter has been here, how long?
Yeah, we.
Well, I've got table, who is, I mean, on name, but
Listed as shelter manager, not director.
She's the one, because there's one employee in the
you
animal
had to have an
shelter
animal shelter at one.
that's great. Well, that employee's been with the county.
We had that, well,
So
there's,
they
it's
found it.
created, like,
It's
in
the
the
county and then they are everything.
I think she was in another, maybe in another department.
She
She
was
was
under the
grandfather.
county. I was here when they created it. And I haven't been here 12 years.
Okay, so it was.
2004.
Right, we took over the, employees that were existing there when it was ran by the city, because they're classified as county employees. So I'm assuming that they brought over their tenure.
That's what I was
Yeah, I asked for a list, like, for example, with the insurance, because I needed it when I was doing, that's how deep level I got to the insurance, to try to get an accurate number. And there was one employee in that department that was basically grandfathered. Yeah, but I don't know where they were before. But it was interesting as you look through that list and how many employees were in different departments that were basically on that list.
All right, so back to the topic at hand. We've got a motion and a second on the floor at 2:50. Any discussion?
Can I not get to my review exercise with me or wait till Carolyn provides specific numbers for you?
And that's,
I mean, if everybody's got their calculator or a phone with the calculator, I'd love for you to do this with me. You all understand the difference between what we will pay them and what they're making now, you're suggesting be $2.50. Divide that by what they're making now, and that gives you a percent increase.
on the low level employees, it's significant.
Right.
250 is about $5,000 increase for a full-time employee, give or take a little bit.
Okay, so if I could finish, if you do 250 divided by $12, that's about a 21% increase. Okay? Now, some of them are making 13, 14. Do 250 divided by 14. Goes down, it's still 18%. Do you, because what's gonna happen, if we give these kind of raises across the board, it's gonna be 12 years before we can even think about moving on raises. We're cutting things tonight that I've never seen a commission cut before, just to try to make this happen. Does it really have to happen at such a high dollar amount? Even if you cut it to $2, those raises are still over 10%. Who gets 10% raises? Who does that? And you don't pick on me. Do people at Snap-on get a 10% raise annually?
Yeah, so I can't comment on that. So I can't comment on that. But, some of them want to do, they killed us for working on the sheriff's department, corrections department. They were in a war on raising the salary levels. And that's where the $5 came up, if you all remember, what we rolled back. Now, we've got our way of the county employees. Well, I mean, this is important that, well, let the, but that's gonna bring a big battle. If it's anything less than what we said would be considered, and that's not that it's not for your time, if it goes less, we'll live there. So,
And during that time frame, from when the raises stopped until now, the cost of living has increased 23.4%.
But even so, even then, if we adopted the $5, that took Carter County about 18 counties in East Tennessee. We were the highest that we give raises for employees. And since that time, while they're in their budget making right now, it's all in the March County, they're going on nuts.
We're just trying to not fix our potential problem, our recruiting problem, or currently. The issue is, and I'm looking at it, and since I made the motion, I'll speak to this, I'm looking at it from a business standpoint, as someone who hires people in the sales force. I make money with a little bit in the county, but when you go, I'm hiring $12 an hour, $13 an hour, and you post those ads into the market, whether it be on Zillow or Indeed or ZipRecruiter or Indeed, you don't get hits on those. And the people that definitely reflects the quality of resumes that you receive as much as especially with all. The thought process is bringing up these bottoms so that we don't have, and we've heard time and time in the process, these are monies that are from budget line items that didn't hire somebody or somebody couldn't get here and those sort of things. We're trying to cultivate a workforce and keep them so that we don't run into those things and make sure that the private sector can't so easily pull them. They have great insurance. If they're in this county, I wouldn't even want to argue that. The percentages are off, but also if you drive a car with 13 gallon tank, and on average gas prices went up 50 cents a year, and coming $330 a year. That is one item of inflation that you could easily calculate. You could do the same thing with eggs or food, or by the time you add all those things up, you get to a number that's several $1,000s. I've done it in my own personal budget, and I've done it, other people have done that, especially when they're fighting as hard as they are to make ends meet and keep their families fed. That's where I'm coming from. While the percentage is high on the bottom, and it is still high as you go up to $14, $15 an hour. Those are entry level fast food position rates. Those are entry level, Dollar General, retail, even Walmart hires no less than 15 in many locations. So we are way behind the eight ball all the time. That's 3% I'm looking at. It's not the permanently one. I'm looking at individual families and what our decisions make, and making sure that our county employees aren't being reflected on our outside agency page when we have to go and buy properties and things.
Biggest question for me is the livable wage. So, you know, when they come in like at $10, $11 an hour, when they pay sure benefits are good. But is that livable wage in Carter County? $11. Well, under, let's say, we can look at the, you know, based on the census,
Well, I'm saying that as well, as Dr. Ego said earlier, these are departments that cut 4% by and large to ensure that their employees that they care about, they have the same livable wage that Commissioner Bill's talking about.
So here's one thing that helped put this in perspective. I'm just giving this as a point of reference. For 10K, the household income at or below 250% of the federal poverty level for a family of two is $49,300 per year. For a family of four, $75,000 per year. So many of the people that will be getting these raises, if both of them work for the county, and they will both pay about the same, they're both going to be able to 100% qualify for 10K or even higher raises.
now, under the census, the last census was median household income was $40,820. Per capita income for the previous 12 months was $24,631. And the median in our payroll right now is between the 22.5 and the 31.2.
And back to the reference that Carolyn made, it's $5,200 annually at $250 an hour. And that's 52 weeks times 40 times 2.5, 5,200. So that's before taxes.
Yeah,
Luckily, we're not pushing anybody into a new tax bracket in this raise.
and not that I'm opposed to what's on the floor, but I certainly agree with Ginger. I think we need, I'll vote for this, but at the end of the day, we need to know what those percentage increases are. Because when an employee said, well, you had the sheriff's department, $5 an hour, we only got $2.50, and we tell them, well, you got a 20% raise.
Yeah, for something, the sheriff's department, that.
Well, yeah, but we're in dire straits, and we've been committed to funding our first responders. And you see what it's brought us under this leadership, under this sheriff. Donnie said, and I've noticed it too, I watch very much as I drive these roads back and forth to Johnson City every day, twice, sometimes more. I've seen more sheriff's cars on the road than I can ever remember since I've lived in this county.
I see a car, deputy's car, once a day, you know, I've never seen that in years. Never. You can't even call on them. I kid you not. The church that I ministered had some vandalism. It took them 2 hours to get there after it was reported. Then they wouldn't even do a report. They didn't, they laid a hammer, a saw. They didn't take no fingerprints. They left them laying there. They didn't take anything.
Because we don't do fingerprints unless it's murder. And I hate to say that from, yes, it's true. Everything rolls through TBI. And priority is murders.
Yeah, but the point is, they wouldn't even do a report.
And that.
We couldn't turn it in
Yeah.
on our insurance because they didn't do a report.
Dr. Grayson, if you were thinking also, that may, your comment, I think, we may want to look at and possibly ask to withdraw the motion, have Ms. Carolyn to take the amount within 50-cent barrels and break it down versus our payroll to see where and how we need to do that.
How much extra work is that gonna cost her though? I mean, does she have time to do that? What should I pick up today?
Oh, gee, that I'm still calling. I know that. But that
Like, 'cause I gotta do it by employee.
buying for it, I don't think that.
Well, that's the only way it's gonna work. unless I take a raise.
You'll start playing with the social security time to get that.
Oh, no, but it'll take a minute.
You know, understand, we're on the clock, we're close, we have to vote this thing out there. We don't have time. We're already back up as it is.
If we want to start at the 250, I gotta go in and put the 250 in anyway, and so I'll try to create another column that gives a percentage on that one, and then that can kind of tell you where it's going to land.
We have already, you already have the most documents here, we've done through the law enforcement corrections. On that, so you went through, say, on it to come up with those amounts, which has been acted on the money, so it should be basically the same for the rest of the board.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be about $5,000-ish, but I, like somebody that makes, I think I need $12 to do, like a 5% increase is 50 cents. So that's not significant, but this is $2.50, so from that level, that's pretty significant. If you get somebody that's making 35,000, then it's
it's not near the amount of money.
Well, this is how we lay it out. Makes a difference. The lower needs to increase. The lower,
I didn't want to interrupt you. You're used to dismissing Johnson's office. You know, ideally, the way I look at it is what we would like to see our employees that work in this county being a relative line of pay of other counties doing the same job, right? And isn't that what you'd like to see?
Then the raise would be to go out $7.
Exactly. That's the ideal. The way to do that's how you do a complete pay study compared to other counties. That's more time down the road that we don't have.
Well, in the pay study, we did pay for a pay study and it happened just before COVID
Yeah.
and the company finally just said they were never going to do it. So we got our money back.
but the other thing, and I agree with you, Commissioner Smith, except one thing. You don't have a county that has a revenue. Look around us. Johnson's lower than us, Newport is lower than us. Washington's higher, Sullivan's higher. And Green's higher, you know, we're better grade, and I know we have an increase, they need it to make a living.
Closest one that's comparable is, I think, Hancock.
Well, I mean, if we take the same counties with the same problems, you know, like Cumberland County, Tiffin, Hamlin,
And let's also consider in many of those counties, they have roughly the same property tax, maybe it was a little bit higher, but they also have wheel tax.
well, I mean, the only way that Johnson County survived was wheel tax. And it's, and I don't think that that's completely off the playing field, because there's discussion, and it has some great merit to it, that will aid us in other budget years, next year, and following year, before we can put together, they may be that opportunity for a specific, maybe specific one, is the, oh, really, but you can make whatever you want to, and come up with an amount for relief your budget, and so it fund another department, so.
And I agree with Danny suggested a couple of meetings ago, that we do a wheel tax, obviously we will not do it this coming budget year, it'll have to be done next year.
Be 2 years for the next election.
Right. But I agree, it should be labeled an education tax, so we pay down what we owe county schools.
And
To alleviate a little bit of what.
Yes, yeah, it won't totally erase it,
Right.
but you know, any revenue is better than no revenue in this one.
And if you make it acceptable, it can't be, you know, with the shot in the dark, it's gonna be acceptable. But it's, and it's $2, I think it's something that should be on board every month. After we get through this budget year, get it formulated and improved.
Right, I agree. But I do agree, now we, you know, if we go ahead with the motion tonight, at 250, and 125, I would like to see those percentage raises at some point in time. Because I'm telling you, folks, are gonna say, again, you gave $5 an hour to sheriff's department. You only gave us $6.50. But we know what those percentages are, so you got a 20% raise.
Chair, would it be appropriate to amend Greg, as I did, to the motion, so that we have that before it goes forward, all commissioners and everyone that had that available for guidance to see what specifically they're talking about.
if you would like to supplement it, so you're more welcome.
I would offer that as a friendly amendment.
So, very good.
Let's have to be careful too, what we voted here like this, you're locked in.
Well, we can,
So if you don't, that means you make a committee, or you're 2/3 to override.
right,
You count 2/3 of what's that here.
it's it.
Help me out with work, I couldn't figure it out. I'm
Do you accept the friendly amendment?
Provided it's next department can do it, and they don't like times that we're going to have. That's adding more work to their load. That's the only bad thing. They've already got. underway right now.
Well, I was thinking, I remember the budget, the full budget came, so after the work is done, it's coming. The full budget before it came with the full edition. That's what I was
It's
thinking.
not that much time.
There's, we got projects.
So,
Carolyn, I know that puts a burden on you and your staff.
well, and I'm gonna be the one doing that, because it's payroll related, so.
They were just think about what's another to do. Hire three. And 65 gallon doesn't help.
Yeah.
All right, well, we have a motion and a second. Anything else?
I just want to state a little bit of my reasoning. I should have started with that. But I've listened and you all say you're somewhere around 28 to 30 something cents. An increase on the tax base right now. Whenever that's announced, and we have our public hearing, not sooner, our citizens are going to come in here and fuss and tell us that they can't afford that increase in their taxes. I saw this happen 4 to 5 years ago when we proposed a fairly, I mean, if I would just been 7 cents, okay, it was small, so what we're talking about now. And the citizens came from all directions, of all ages, and said, please don't do this. We can't afford this. So I'm just thinking ahead, everybody, because the decisions you're making in here now, I'm just trying to make sure that we're all thinking about what happens next and what could happen, what's the worst case scenario, because I'm afraid you all are going to sit in here and do all this work, many, many hours you put in, that I'm so grateful to you for. And then when it comes to full commission, it's not going to pass. I don't know. Have you all, if you don't have to answer this is a rhetorical question, but have you all asked other commissioners, like, what are you all kind of thinking that you might be willing to go for on a tax increase? You know, don't discuss a vote, don't break the sunshine law, but just kind of feel about the other 16 commissioners and see if you're putting forth something that's going to pass. So that's what I'm thinking about, and I want to apologize for saying, I'm sorry to ask that question.
Oh, you're fine, you're fine. One thing to point out is it doesn't, all we're really deciding right now is how much more it goes up.
Yeah.
Because we are 100% on the hook for like 22 or 23 cents right now, period, into discussion. There is no other way around it. The 850,000 is just for the other county employees. So the 1.6 from the sheriff's department, and then whatever the other, the 533,000 or roughly however much that is, that's the deal. There's no other way around it.
And if I tell the thing with, is the public, there's two things. One, what do you want to cut?
We're cutting services.
You're gonna have to cut a service, where's it gonna do? That's the only way around, we're fire department. And secondly is, when they say, well, I can't afford it. Well, we'll say, let's use the 28 cent. There's no reason why our tax assessment cannot sit down with a 200,000 appraised, a 250 appraised, a 300, and tell you right then how much the difference would be per year. So, we're looking at big numbers, but I think it's gonna be hard to defend that they can't afford $50.
Every dime is about $75. Every dime is about $75. So you're talking about,
That's about $225 a year. So, a couple of things. You're gonna have tax rate, you're gonna have tax increase in how many years?
Good. Not 20-some.
No.
So we got that what was it, before I came into the commission, that was 8 years running. That was all before it worked. So 8 years.
It's about the same as last employee raises,
So that would put it at about, it was 12 years before we came in, so that's been 16 years.
So, I mean, you're right. When I first came on with the first raise that was issued, to for this county. So I'm not for a tax increase if I pay taxes. I know you do the same way, but I'll have a tax increase if that amount of time is already done. Because then you get to this point.
Exactly.
And now we're at a point where we've got to do something to, Carolyn, how many people we went through? All the board of finance for.
Oh, I can think of
Because of wages.
At least five.
So here's the Zelena's reason. So I think that you'll.
And the sad thing is, 20 years ago, people were tickled to work for the county. You were close to home, you had very little drive time, it was straight days, you know, you could drive.
You had decent
you had
insurance,
good
TCRS.
insurance. That's what kept them there. We do not live in that world. People want bigs and best, and that's all they settle for. It's just, it's not the same. Folks, they work all winter long, there's no snow, doing what they need to do. And they're obviously not gonna get rich doing it, never have, but they've been honorable enough to stay.
And one of the things, when we're looking at the percentage increase, when we're looking at that percentage increase, anybody that's under 23% is not even caught up to what they should be at from where they were 16, 18 years ago.
And the other thing, and we talked about it tonight, is Sequoia Group has said this to us, we've got a very strong benefit package. And the employees need to understand how strong it is in terms of looking, and I'm sure Sequoia Group can do it for us. Rate the counts. Who's got the best plan? Who's got the worst plan in the first district?
That's a stellar idea. Sounds like something to financial.
The money that we save from these department heads cutting their budgets so that we can do this. If we say that we're not gonna do the raise now, what's the odds that Carolyn has 22 emails in the morning that says, hey,
Here's my 2 weeks notice.
Well, let's work it the other way. We don't like that, we just say we'll do it. Across the commission, we recommend complete 8% cut. Here's my problem, you go Charlie Floyd, that don't have.
yeah, we operate in good faith, in good faith, and then super threat.
Well, 217,000 offset,
We worry about it around the Google, it's just how hard we'll punch it.
217,000 offset, you know, off of the 8.5, but it still leaves us, like I said, around 2.8%.
Under your 2 cents over that.
Yeah. All right, any other discussion on the dollar or dollar amount and the motion on the floor?
Motion on floor is 250 and 125.
And as Carolyn has time to calculate the percentage difference, so we can say, you got this much of a raise, you got this much of a raise, you got this much of a raise.
How do you want that worded in the form of motion as far as?
And as the finance department,
As
prior to full presentation to the commission, the finance department calculate the percentage change for each individual. Does that sound right to you?
It says before it comes to the full distribution to the worker. That don't mean it has to be done by tomorrow morning.
No, I'm hungry, we'll get in. And let's hope we don't get one more email saying.
And that don't mean-
Listen, if you have anything else, if you go in and start taking copies, I think it's all. And I think that will help. Do what?
Right, but that's here.
But the amount of paper doesn't change. Just keep that in mind.
We do too, and we're the department surgery, probably one of the other
He's talking about you.
departments well off.
No, you didn't do anything. Daniel was saying that you haven't been over the whole courthouse.
Buck Rachel,
Uh,
Julie Gwynn,
Yes.
Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
Layla Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cagle,
Yes.
Aaron Pruitt,
Aye.
Cody McQueen.
All right. Only other thing that we've got to deal with now would be approval of the outside agencies.
Now, Paul, that we just finished working on, we used the number of 684, 155, correct?
Yes.
And that represents the plan that which we just through and call off each individual one, which would be funded. correct?
Yep.
So that is, volunteer fire department, Carter County EMS, Carter County Fire Department.
Soil conservation, let's get that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a must, that's a, we don't have a choice.
Carter County Rescue, Carter County Emergency Communications District, Public Library, and First Tennessee Development District. Is that correct?
Yep.
Well, I've got First Tennessee Human Resource Park as well. That's the one that we took out. Yes.
There's all.
That's the difference one there. I
Let's go with that.
think
But,
that's the difference.
okay, yeah, I had that one.
Well, that is what I had discussed too. Commented our county survey, or just the budget. As many as I've sat through each year, I have never known, except one time, that it ever passed on the floor, what the finance, what the budget committee recommended for position. Because one of the problems with that is we got Adrian has worked a long time on the budget and the other figures, know where they're coming from, and you still got 16 out there that doesn't have a clue. So everything that we've been doing on questions, we're gonna be doing the same thing on the floor. And it kind of gives you a bad feeling, you think, well, why the dick is I set up here every night for 50 nights to do the budget when there's only, and where it came down to, in 3 of them, that I was in, came down to where no vote on the budget. Discussion and all lasted as much as 3 hours, and at the end of the discussion, the budget passed, as like I said. But you might as well just expect it, sit back and vote for it.
Well, I didn't catch all that shit, right?
No, we're gonna let later, but she said. She got the best more senior, so she used it.
All right, so the floor's open for a motion.
Okay, it's $1,635,370.
Now, I think we've taken that out already.
What do you see?
Eight,
8-4.
8-4.
Oh, 55.
Well, just took the 30,000 out of that, because I had it included in my.
You had it done?
Okay, so we need another $30,000.
1-6,
53485.
3, 4, 8, 5. 1, 6, 5, 3, 4, 8, 5.
485. Motion by Danny Deal, do we have a second? Second by Cody McCoy, discussion. If anybody decides that we need more discussion, let me go find a dead horse to drag in here.
We're gonna make it today.
Yes. Then we're pretty much down to unfunded mandates and contracts, so we can't go any lower. So All right, Mr. Perry, we call the roll, one or two already.
So Mr. Dill had the motion.
Yeah, motion by, Deal, second by McLean, to approve the outside agencies at $1,653,485 for the, aforementioned list of Butler Fire Department, Soil Conservation, EMS, Carter County Fire Departments, Carter County Rescue, Carter County Emergency Communications, Elizabeth Public Library, and First Tennessee Development District.
Dr. Echo,
Aye.
Julie Williams, Brad Johnson,
Yes.
Danny Deal,
Yes.
Michael Ward,
Yes.
Donnie Cates.
Yes.
Aaron Fraser,
All right.
Cody McQueen.
All right, folks.
Actually, I have an announcement I'd like to make that's not budgetary. And,
Hold on 1 second. Yeah, we're putting Bureau in, what you got?
I'm being asked questions about the road superintendent. The road superintendent resigning at the end of this month. Some commissioners have already called me and said that people in their district are complaining.
Bye bye, my bonds.